So here we are in the beginning of a new year, and I just had this amazing podcast interview just a couple of weeks ago with a good friend of mine, Dr. Cody Goldman. And there were so many good nuggets from that conversation that I wanted to pull a couple of them out and actually talk about them on this kind of recap of just a powerful conversation. And one, knowing that we're in the beginning of the year and there is so many New Year's resolutions and goals being set at this particular time of the year. This is an amazing episode to go and listen to if health, wellness, longevity is a part of your plan for 2025, which I hope for everyone it is a part of your plan. But I'm going to start there. I'm going to start with the health side of this interview. I met Dr. Cody Goldman through a friend of mine who had went through his hormonal reset program. I don't even know how long it was ago, about a year and a half ago. And I was at a stage in my life a year ago, almost exactly where I was just like, I'm just not myself. I had my gallbladder removed in an emergency surgery after gallstones developed through pregnancy. My hormones just never resettled after our second baby. I had fatigue. I've had chronic insomnia since the day I found out I was pregnant with our first child. So that was like at that point 8 years of insomnia, literally. And I couldn't lose that second set of baby weight. And it just felt like everything was compounding. It was like I was doing all the things. I was eating all the right things, seemingly eating healthy. I'm holding up bunny ears if you're listening to this because it seemingly was the really important part. Trying the keto thing, trying the, fasting thing. I was like, I was doing all the things and nothing was working. I was mentally exhausted. I was physically depleted. I was having midday crashes, memory fog that I chalked up to mom brain. And if you're a woman with children, you have used that term like, "Man, I just have mom brain." Y'all, that's not a thing. It's not supposed to be that way. And I just bought into all this crap that we hear. It's like, "Oh, well, you're getting older." And it's like baloney. It's like, "Oh, well, your hormones are off." And it's like, "Oh, I'm just supposed to live with that?" Like that's just the life we get. And I kind of crossed this threshold, which took me a long time to get there, where it's like, y'all, I need a life reset. And I got introduced to Dr. Cody, and on our very first call, he said two really important things to me. He was like, do you do you eat sugar? And I said, no, I'm a pretty healthy eater. And he said, really, you don't eat sugar? And I said, no, I'm not really a sweet person. I'm more of a savory person. I could walk past a cookie, can't walk past a chip, but no, I don't eat a lot of sugar. And he said, I didn't ask if you ate desserts. I said, do you eat sugar? And clearly he knew the answer to this before he asked it. And I said, no, not really. And he said, I think you're severely mistaken. After this call, I want you to get off and I want you to do an inventory intake of your pantry and your refrigerator. And I want you to look at all the grams of sugar of all of the stuff that you eat. And then I want you to report back to me. Do you eat sugar? And I was like, all right, easy. I buy healthy, I eat healthy. And that was the first thing. And so after the call, I went downstairs and was like, "What sugar is he talking about?" I lost it. Literally jaw on the floor, screaming and yelling like, "What? Why is there sugar in my garlic salt? Why is there sugar in this? I can't believe this." It was one of those aha moments of you just get so used to thinking it's healthy because it says it's healthy or it says it's organic or it's all natural or it's recommended by someone or it's what everyone else is doing that you don't even really understand what you're eating anymore, or you've been so not clear on what it means to eat healthy that you're just completely confused on what's acceptable and what's not. Y'all, I was eating so much sugar. I had no idea, and I'm a healthy eater, like, genuinely speaking. It's like but it was in everything. It was in my spices. It was in, added into meats. It was in everything. It was in, clearly in condiments, even ones that I was, like, buying that was low sugar, and then I started looking for all the artificial I was livid at myself that I had not paid attention to some of the basics. It had just one of those things that just was in my peripheral and I didn't even pay attention. I didn't even notice. And it was a big deal. And that was like a first aha moment of like, oh my gosh, my sugar intake is so high. Uh, that's a problem. Second thing he brought up on this call that was life changing, revolutionary for me is he said, do you eat a lot of oils? And I said, oh, it's so interesting you say that. I had my gallbladder removed not too long ago, and I've been really watching, oils and stuff. And he was like, what kind of oils do you watch? Like, tell me all about that. And again, it was like the secondary thing of like I had avoided, avocados and olive oils and all the things that I knew were triggers for me that made me feel ill. But then he said, have you ever looked at your skin products, your hair products, all your body products? And he was like, and do you pay attention to the amount of oil that is actually in the food you eat? Not the oil you add to the food you eat, the oil in the food you eat. He said, do you ask, is your food cooked with oil when you go to a restaurant? And the answer is, of course. And he goes, do you add a little oil when you cook? The answer was, of course, yes, I do. And he was like, there's your problem. You have too much oil and too much sugar. Your body is using those as fuel versus using its natural fuel source, which is fat. Right. So if you want more of that conversation, you're going to have to go listen to the full episode. But here's what this is the part that I wanted to share with all of you. Those were two things I had never heard in the last 3 years where I had been desperately struggling with this gallbladder disease and was trying to avoid surgery, surgery like the plague. I was trying to do it all natural. Not one doctor, not one Western medicine doctor, not one specialist that I met with, not the surgeon, no one asked, hey, tell me about the sugar intake, tell me about the oil intake, even tell me about your diet. Didn't happen. And even with nutritionists that I had met with, it was not about this. He's like, you have a hormonal imbalance because your body isn't using what it has naturally built for fuel. It's using all this crap that you're adding. And that's your problem. You have to retrain your body how to use fat as fuel. And I was like, whatever you say, I'll try. I can do anything for a certain amount of time. And I think this was the really biggest thing for me is like, I had done all these things, but I hadn't done my research. So that's what I want to ask to you guys. How many of you have started a new goal or made a new commitment to yourself or a New Year's resolution and you've made it, but yet you haven't done the research? And that was my problem. I had been making these goals like, hey, this is the year of health. This is the year of fitness. This is the year of, fixing this problem. But I had not backed it up with, am I prepared, willing to do the research required to set me up for success? Not just the work, but the knowledge, the information, the time that it takes to get the right answer so you can do the right things in the right order. So it makes a real difference in your life. Now, I'm talking specifically about health because that's the conversation with Dr. Cody that I would encourage you guys to go listen to on the Influential Personal Brand podcast. It's also the story of my year, the last year of my life, of getting my life back. And I will say it's like those two things, eliminating those things from my life has allowed me to sleep again. I have full time energy again. I don't have mom brain or memory fog. I think clearer. I handle stress better. My body is better. I am fitter today than I was on the day that I got married. It's like I have changed things because I was committed to doing the research. Once I had the information, the knowledge, then I was able to better commit to doing the work, right? Part of doing the research and getting the information is so that you can have a deeper and committed why so that you follow through with the goals that you've set. Right. A lot of this is about preparation. You can't just go out and run a marathon, right? You've got to do the research, do the training to prepare yourself for the big event. Goals are no different. Commitments are no different, right? If you just make a commitment without going like, what is it really going to take for me to do this? Like, what mindset do I have to have? What mental state do I have to be in? What schedule changes, physical changes? What life commitments do I have to make? Like, I made a lot. Like, I was the girl carrying around steamed broccoli in a bag at the sporting events. Like, that was me. But those were the things that I had to be prepared with in advance. Because if it would have hit me off guard, I don't know if I would have followed through with it. So my question to you is one, what is that goal, that commitment that you're making this year in the season of resolutions? And what is the research that you need to go and do, the information you need to gather, the knowledge you need to learn to ensure that you are set up for success? Because the more that you know, the better equipped and prepared you will be to do the thing. right? Because it's not always going to be easy. There's going to be highs and lows, wins and losses. There's going to be successes and failures, and those are going to happen on a daily basis. But if we're prepared with the right information and the right tools, then when we fall off the wagon, we can get right back on because we know what to do. Problem is, most of us don't do the research to know what to do. And when we fall off, we don't know how to get back on. Right. So that's the first thing about like this kind of health and wellness. The second thing about this interview that I think is just fascinating is the power of accountability. I've done a lot of programs. I'm really into self development, coaches, classes, seminars, courses, events, masterminds. Love them all. I genuinely love all of it. Never in my life have I been a part of a program that had the level of accountability. And it wasn't just accountability, it was a commitment to change my life from someone else that I got in this particular program. And so, one of the things that I want to bring up is, and now in this particular program, it's called the Fast 40 with Dr. Cody Goldman. And it's 40 days. It's really longer than 40 days, but it's advertised as 40 days. Sounds better. Um, but daily accountability every single morning, like clockwork. AJ, where's your stats? Right? AJ, what'd you do? AJ, tell me how you're doing every single day. And it was a great reminder to me. And I had forgotten this, but I will never forget it again of the power of someone committed to your success, right? I felt like some days, like he cared more than I did. And on those days where I was having a hard day, I needed it, right? There were other days where I didn't want to share my stats, but he was like, send them over. And I needed that to break through that wall of I'm embarrassed that I went backwards, right? And then there were days where I was super excited to share and I needed someone to celebrate with me. I needed someone in the trench to go, see, you can do this. On the really great days, I needed that motivation. On the really hard days, I needed that motivation, right? I needed it on both. And I think it's just a great reminder as we're talking about goals and commitments. It's like, what's your accountability plan? Like, who is the accountability partner? What's the accountability structure? Is it daily? Is it, well, it needs to be daily, right? But is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it a person? Is it a group of people? Is it yourself? It's like, what is your accountability plan? Right? You cannot expect what you do not inspect. And one of the best ways to ensure that you do that consistently is to have a person or persons or a plan that keeps you in between the guardrails. Because on the days when it goes off, and it's okay if it goes off one day, but you can't let the one turn into two or three or four. That's when everything falls off the railroads, right? And we got to keep them on. And people, community can help you do that. So my question is, have you done the research and do you have accountability? Have you done the research and have you done or do you have the accountability in order for you to hit your goals or commitments this year?